Welcome to this presentation on securing your cloud environment. In the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner curriculum, this focus on safety is known as Domain 2, Security and Compliance. As you navigate the cloud, understanding security is not just a technical requirement, it is a foundational principle. To make these complex topics more relatable, we will use a central analogy throughout this session. Securing your AWS cloud is very much like securing a new apartment. The sources highlight that security is one of the 6 conceptual pillars of the AWS well-architected framework. This means that when we design systems in the cloud, we don't just add security at the end, we build it into the very blueprint of our infrastructure. This pillar focuses specifically on protecting data, systems, and assets, while creating a strong identity foundation to manage exactly who can do what within your digital space. Today, we will walk through that blueprint together. In a traditional on-premise data center, you are responsible for everything, from the physical locks on the doors to the software updates on the servers. However, in the world of AWS, security is a partnership. To understand this, we must identify the 2 main characters in our story: the landlord, AWS, and the tenant, you. Just as a landlord in an apartment complex provides the essential structure and external safety, AWS provides the foundational security for the global infrastructure. As the tenant, you are responsible for the safety of everything you bring into that space. This is the first and most critical step in building a secure environment. Recognizing that while AWS provides the building, you are the one who determines who is allowed inside your specific unit. This partnership is formally defined by the shared responsibility model, which serves as our lease agreement. It clarifies the security obligations of AWS versus the customer. AWS is responsible for security of the cloud. This includes the building's physical foundation, the perimeter fence, and the main gate. Technically, this translates to the physical infrastructure, hardware, and the software, such as the host OS and virtualization layer, that runs AWS services. The customer is responsible for security in the cloud. This means you are responsible for locking your own apartment door and managing what happens inside. Your responsibilities include managing your data, performing client-side encryption, protecting network traffic, and configuring operating systems, applications, and firewalls. If you leave your virtual front door unlocked by misconfiguring a setting, that responsibility rests with you, the tenant. Once you move into your apartment, your first job is to control access. In AWS, this is handled through Identity and Access Management, IAM. Think of IAM as the master keycard system for your apartment. It is the tool that lets you create and manage users and grant them specific permissions. Establishing a strong identity foundation is a core pillar of a well-architected framework for security. IAM allows you to define 3 main types of identities: users, individual people within your organization; groups, collections of users who share the same permissions; roles, temporary permissions that can be assumed by AWS services to perform tasks securely. By using these tools, you ensure that only authorized guests can enter your space and interact with your belongings. When managing your keys, you must follow a critical security best practice: the principle of least privilege, POLP. In our analogy, you wouldn't give a delivery driver a master key that opens every door in the building just to leave a package at the gate. Instead, you give them a temporary code that only opens the front gate. In AWS, POLP involves granting users and services only the minimum level of access required to perform their specific tasks. This practice is vital because it reduces the blast radius of a potential security incident. If a single account is compromised, the potential damage is severely limited because that account only had access to its specific room rather than the entire complex. To keep your apartment secure, you need to follow 2 essential practices: protecting the root user and using roles and groups. The root user is your building's super admin, the account created when you first opened your AWS account. It has the power to change anything, including the ownership of the building. You must protect it at all costs and secure it with multi-factor authentication, MFA. You should never use the root user for daily tasks. Secondly, rather than making a unique key for every single visitor, you should create sets of keys for different needs. This means assigning permissions to groups for users and roles for AWS services. This allows you to manage permissions efficiently and consistently across your entire organization. Now that you have secured the locks and are managing the keys, how do you know who is coming and going? In AWS, we use monitoring and auditing to maintain operational excellence and compliance. Think of this as installing security cameras in the hallways of your apartment complex. This practice aligns with the operations as code principle from the well-architected framework. By treating operations as code, you can enable automated security auditing and ensure consistent environment states across your infrastructure. You no longer have to manually check every door. Your system does it for you. AWS provides two primary tools for these cameras: AWS CloudTrail and AWS Config. AWS CloudTrail acts as your security logbook or your security camera footage. It records nearly all API calls made in your AWS account. It answers the fundamental questions: who did what, when, and from where. This is essential for auditing and troubleshooting security incidents. AWS Config is your building inspector. It provides a compliance report by continuously monitoring and recording your resource configurations. It answers the question, is my environment configured according to my rules? This allows for compliance as code, ensuring that your security best practices are always met. Monitoring tells you what is happening inside your complex, but what about threats from the outside? AWS provides managed services that act like a dedicated security team, actively defending your applications and infrastructure. In our apartment analogy, these services are the professional guards patrolling the perimeter. You don't have to hire and train them yourself. AWS provides them as specialized services that work 24/7 to block attackers before they can even reach your front door. This allows you to focus on your business, while AWS handles the sophisticated defense against external threats. Two key members of your active security team are AWS Shield and AWS WF. AWS Shield is the gate guard at the main entrance. It is a managed distributed denial of service, DDoS protection service, that protects your applications from large disruptive crowds, volumetric attacks, trying to overwhelm your resources. Standard protection is enabled automatically for all customers. AWS WAF, Web Application Firewall, is the bouncer at your exclusive party. It checks the guest list and stops individuals who look like trouble. It protects your web applications from common exploits like SQL injection and cross-site scripting, XSS, that could compromise security or consume excessive resources. Finally, we have Amazon Guard Duty, our roving patrol. Guard Duty is an intelligent 24/7 security patrol that constantly walks the halls, checks for unlocked doors, and notices suspicious behavior that a fixed camera might miss. This is a threat detection service that continuously monitors for malicious activity and unauthorized behavior to protect your AWS accounts and workloads. It is highly intelligent, analyzing multiple AWS data sources like CloudTrail logs and VPC flow logs. Examples of what it might detect include unusual API calls, instances communicating with known malicious IP addresses, or potential data theft. This slide brings the entire apartment complex together into one AWS security blueprint. On the left, you see the AWS responsibility, security of the cloud, which includes the physical infrastructure and tools like AWS Config for compliance. On the right, you see your responsibility, security in the cloud. This includes your specific apartment unit, where you use IAM and the principle of least privilege to manage access, and CloudTrail to log activity. You also see our specialized services like AWS WAF, AWS Shield, and Guard Duty, working at the perimeter and in the hallways to keep the entire complex safe. This holistic view shows how the partnership creates a truly secure environment. As we conclude, let's recap the high-priority concepts for your Domain 2 exam. Foundational concepts to remember. Shared responsibility. Model: AWS secures the of, you secure the in. IAM manages users, groups, roles, and permissions. Principle of least privilege: grant only the minimum necessary permissions. MFA Essential protection for key accounts. Key services to recognize. CloudTrail, API call logging. Who did what? Config, resource configuration monitoring. Are we compliant? Shield, DDoS protection. WAF, protects web apps from common exploits. Guard duty, intelligent continuous threat detection. By keeping the apartment analogy in mind, you will be well prepared to identify the roles and tools necessary for a secure AWS environment. Good luck with your studies.